So we wanted to talk about maintenance and maintenance schedules. Each manufacturer has a different maintenance schedule that they recommend, and there's a couple factors that come into those maintenance schedules. We have a lot of customers that come in and we recommend services every 30,000 miles. That's just when we do them on our own vehicles, and that's when we recommend them based on our area. Each manufacturer has their own individual recommendation for fluids. For example, differentials, most manufacturers say anywhere from 50 to 75,000 miles. We recommend those every 30,000 miles. Cars that are in conditions where it's 65 degrees and that temperature never changes, they're being driven 15 miles at freeway speeds, things that are just unrealistic. That is what they consider a normal service schedule. Anything that is not that, for example, driving less than 10 miles, short distances like that, not driving the vehicle until it comes up to full operating temperature, those would be considered a severe service schedule. The other thing that plays a factor in it is ambient temperatures. For example, in Utah, last week it was snowing. We got a winter storm last week in the middle of April, and that's not normal. We had freeze warnings. We were dipping into the low 20s. We also see temperatures above 100 degrees, which puts us in an extreme climate, which is a severe service schedule. If you're the type of customer that drives your vehicle for less than 5 years and then you trade it in, you're only putting 50,000 miles on it, and then you take it in and you get a new vehicle, maintenance really isn't something that you need to worry about, because at that point you're getting a new car every 50,000 miles and it's only going to benefit the next guy. However, we've noticed that a lot of people like to keep their cars for 250 to 300,000 miles. Doing those services, changing your fluids and doing those services when we recommend them, will help you achieve those higher mileages with the least amount of repairs needed. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have breakdowns. Things are going to break down, things break. That's just the nature of the beast. But we've noticed that by doing regular maintenance, you reduce those repairs, and it's also less expensive when a repair is needed, because you don't have to change an entire system. You just need to change one component on that system. Those situations are mostly for fluids. We recommend fluids every 30,000 miles, and that's going to help you get the most mileage out of your vehicle by changing it that often. Now, there are some maintenance items where we do go based on the factory recommended interval. For example, those would be spark plugs, drive belts, things of that nature, and everybody's different. Some vehicles, they'll let you go 120,000 miles before they say, okay, it's time to change the spark plugs. Some trucks, you can go 150,000 miles before it's time to change the drive belt. We have our own recommended intervals, but we're also willing to do the factory recommended stuff. We have a lot of customers that will ask us, hey, do you notice any wear or damage on that part when we hit 150,000 and I recommend a drive belt? Visually looking at it, no, it's not going to look like it's going to need to be replaced. However, manufacturers have done a lot of research and a lot of testing to determine how far a part can go before it's going to fail. So when we go based on those factory recommended intervals, like let's say a drive belt at 150,000 miles, a lot of Ford products recommend that. They've noticed at 150,000, that's about the extent of the drive belt life. Anything past that, you run the risk of a potential failure. Drive belts are one of those things that can leave you stranded on the side of the road. If you lose a drive belt, your cooling system's no longer functional. A lot of times your power steering system's no longer functional, which can cause more damage down the road if you continue to drive it. So a lot of times you don't do it just based on visual. You do it based on, you've hit this mileage, it's time to do it. Same with things like spark plugs. Some manufacturers recommend spark plugs every 40,000 miles, which it seems like it's early, but really it's not. They've done testing on those systems, and when you take a spark plug and go beyond its recommended interval, what it does is it increases the resistance in that spark plug, which can then potentially take out an ignition coil. Essentially, that ignition coil is requiring more work to make that spark plug do its job because the spark plug's worn. So there are things that are recommended based on mileage, not because they're worn out yet, but because it's time to change them so that you don't cause other parts or other systems to fail prematurely. And that is the biggest reason that we do a severe service table, and we feel the same way. If you have a vehicle that is in extreme temperatures, like Utah, if you have a fluid that's cooled down to 15 degrees and then you start that vehicle up and you go drive it, that fluid is very, very thick and it takes some time to get warm. Over time, you get it warm, and going from extremely cold to extremely hot, engines run around 220 degrees. That causes that fluid to degrade a little bit each time you do that. So it's imperative that you keep that fluid like new. You want to change it before it's actually changed color. To keep maintenance goes beyond fluids too. Shocks and struts, we recommend those every 75,000 miles, and here's why. Over time, those struts and shocks by 75,000 miles, they've gone about 1,000,000 times in and out, up and down, 1,000,000 times. That's the average. At 75,000 miles, you'll notice a little bit of comfort as the ride will smoothen out. But the biggest thing that you'll notice is changing those struts and keeping them like new actually increases your stopping distance by 20%, or roughly 22 feet. It helps you stop sooner. If you are braking on worn struts, the front of the vehicle will actually dip down, causing inertia to keep pushing you forward, which essentially you have to use more braking power to stop the vehicle, which is going to prematurely wear out pads. When we recommend struts and shocks at 75,000 miles, visually they don't look bad. They might just be a little bit dirty. They're not leaking or anything. However, they're worn. The way I like to describe them is they've gotten tired. You can only do that job so much before it just can't do it anymore. So even though it doesn't look like it's needed, you'll notice a definite increase in comfort and rideability when you're going over bumps, and you'll probably notice increased stopping distance. It takes less braking power to stop your vehicle than it did before. We just want you to be able to make an educated and an informed decision, and the only way to do that is to know exactly what your vehicle needs when it needs it. Now, we have options where we can extend that mileage out. If you'd rather go every 50,000 miles, we can do that too. We just want to maintain your vehicle how you want to maintain it. But in order to do that, you need to be educated and informed of what your vehicle's going to need. So if you have any questions, if you'd like to know what maintenance schedule your vehicle is on, feel free to give us a call, leave us a comment down below.